Hey guys, this is Mark Havens. I'm principal founder of Dallas Makerspace, and with me I have an anonymous Dallas Makerspace member with some concerns about his experiences over the last year or so and everything that's been going on at Dallas Makerspace. Mr. Anonymous, uh, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well.
Okay, well,
So,
I thought I'd just let you say I'm trying to give people at Dallas Makerspace a voice. So here's a
okay,
good chance to express anything that you need to say regarding Dallas Makerspace.
sure. Well, for starters, I've been a member at DMS since about 2014. So definitely been around the block once or twice. I joined basically right as we were moving into the new building over there off of Valwood and 35.
Mm.
So they were just in the transition from the old Ladybird space and then moving into here. And so I've seen quite a bit of change in that time. When I first started, I think we were probably only in the 6 or 7, maybe 800 people range, if even that.
Mm.
And there was certainly a feel that was very different than we have now. The people who were members back then
Mm.
tended to be much more involved in the
Mm.
day-to-day activities.
Yep, I agree.
Essentially, yeah, what was happening was all the people who were joining up. There was sort of an understanding that you were joining this as a community,
Mm.
and you were supposed to be helping
Mm.
in any way, shape, or form. Be that by teaching classes, by sticking around and cleaning things up, and essentially it was a self-sustaining and self-driven um, sort of organization at that point. And it was a lot of fun back then
Mm.
because the people who were there tended to be a much more social group. Of course, we had some problem members back then too.
Yep.
But there's always going to be some of those, and
People are
but
people.
um, absolutely. And those problem people realized that at the time there wasn't quite a space for them there. And so they kind of either on their own or through some suggestions from other people, they eventually left. And then I would say about 2 years ago, 2.5 maybe, we really started this drive, and it started when we were first looking at the expansion. And essentially, what happened was we started losing focus of the this is a community and everybody's here to help each other out to this is now a business, and for the business to thrive, we need as many numbers on the paper that will pay their dues so that we can float the next month, kind of thing. And that was a big changing point for the makerspace, and
Right.
good, bad, or indifferent as it may be.
Right.
I certainly see some benefits that came out of that. There are a lot of new toys to play with now.
Toys are fun.
Yep, absolutely. But we lost sight, I think, of part of what really was the heart of Makerspace.
Toys without anybody to
And
play with them, that's not as much fun, I guess.
that is true. That is true. But at the same time, we were doing a much better job of advertising exactly what it was that we were and what we were expecting of the people who were joining us.
Mm.
And we don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Now it's basically bring them in, show them the toys, get them interested, and have them sign up, pay for the membership, and then they're on their own.
That's not fun for you?
No, not for me. Now, luckily, I've been around long enough that I'm signed off on most of the equipment there. So,
Yeah.
for me, it's not that big.
We
In
you cut
person,
out
but
there for a minute. Can you
oh, I'm
back up
sorry.
a little bit?
Yeah. So, yeah, basically, we've lost sight of what we are, and we've got a lot of people who are now really. There's a lot of heartache about the fact that we're our goal right now is just to get people onto the roster paying dues, and once they've signed up and sent in that check, it's over. Like there's no more support for them. Nobody's willing to teach them classes anymore, and everybody's in it for themselves. Nobody will teach a class unless we have $50 or $100 coming their way, and that's I get it. Nobody's time is free, but at the same time, you need to look at what it is that we're getting as part of this community, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if that's not worth teaching a class or two a month to you, then maybe these aren't the right people to do it. And I'll be the first to say I don't typically have time to do the classes either, but I am a very much hands-on person. So if somebody comes up to me and asks me for help on something, that's how I help out. So
I prefer
that's just a tribal for me.
I prefer one-on-one too. Honestly, I like teaching certain things, and I've tried teaching a few things. But let me tell you, it's a lot of effort to do a really good job teaching.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
I can invest. I remember one time I put at least 12 hours in one class, just in preparation, and it took a lot out of me. You know,
Yeah.
and then there's getting to the class, teaching the class, and then correspondence before that, and the setting up on the calendar might take 30 minutes to figure out. You know,
Yep.
so
Exactly.
yeah, but it's not about time. It's not even about the money, but it's kind of it's a lot of commitment nonetheless.
Sure.
And I know sometimes for me,
Well, and so my question to
yeah,
you on that is, does it have to be, right? Do we have to have such a difficult process in order to teach class? When I taught a couple of classes early on there, it was literally you throw it on the calendar
mm,
and you show up and it's done. You teach your class and you're done. And now it's just such a labor-intensive process just to get everything squared away that. Are you still there?
yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I
Hey.
guess we got disconnected or whatever. We're still recording though.
Okay, perfect.
So yeah, you can just continue right where you left off.
Teaching classes and the fact that we have just made it so painfully difficult for people to actually go in and teach classes. It used to be a much simpler process of you find a couple people that are interested in a subject and somebody who's the actual expert in said subject, and you get everybody together and you teach a class and everybody learns something. And at some point, we made it so complicated that it's really impossible to teach those kinds of classes anymore because the amount of effort that's required to go into them now is just well beyond the capability of most people who are willing to put in at least a little bit of time to do these types of courses.
And can you be a
And
little
so,
specific about the? I mean, I've done it myself, and it is kind of a hassle. But is there any other um, processes that are just really kind of outside the realm of normal? I'm sorry,
you
normal
know,
people.
so the scheduling system I think is a big problem. The you know the and I'm trying to think of a good way to put it. Um, Putting together all of the required information once you put the scheduled request into the calendar, it's been bounced back. The last class that I taught, it got bounced back 3 times, and I didn't even want the money for the class. I was just trying to get the thing on the calendar,
The bounce back is
and it's
in
one of those things.
when you say
Yeah, it
bounce
was.
back, you mean they refuse to let it go through, or you couldn't
Yeah.
teach?
So I think the first one, I tried to get something to put in, and it
Right.
wasn't working at all. And then when I finally did get something put in, one of the admins said, "Hey, you need to change this and this and this." And I think it took about 3 times before I finally got to the point where the class showed up on the schedule.
And
And then, of course, with my
this was
go
only
ahead.
for honorarium request, right? Honorarium class.
I'm not even sure I was asking for the honorarium. I think by the second or third try, I said, "Look, I just want to put a class on the schedule." Um, and
Hmm.
I think I may have been asking for the honorarium for the committee, but I was never asking for the honorarium for myself.
Right. Well, when were you
And
doing this by chance? You remember the month?
oh, this was probably, well, this would have been pre. Let's see, that would have been. I got back in July, so it would have been probably September of 18,
Okay.
maybe.
Okay.
And so 2.5 years ago, I guess, or well,
Okay.
I guess 2 years ago right now.
Yeah.
Um, But and that's a legacy thing. That's not just on this current board.
Right,
There are
right. No,
plenty of other things to blame for this current board.
it just
Um,
piles on
sure.
when it comes to red tape.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. And that's the
Hmm.
thing, right? It's you know we, it's a volunteer organization, which means that we shouldn't be making things more difficult. We should be making things as easy as possible to
Right,
do.
right.
And somehow we
It
are
shouldn't be a second
fantastic.
job, right? It shouldn't be a
Yeah.
second
Oh,
job.
absolutely.
I don't
Yeah.
work all day to go work at the
Right.
makerspace, right? It's got to be fun.
Yep.
There's got to be something fun for it, or at least enjoyable, or at least some sort of inner desire to do something. You know,
Right. Exactly.
and everybody's got their own reasons for it, I guess. But yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
Yep.
Um, so other than teaching though, are you social at all at the space? Do you have any friends?
Yeah. I mean, I do. I try to. I do what I plan on doing when I get there. So I always have a project, but I absolutely will be social with whoever's there. And we all have our own little cliques, of course.
Hmm.
And not everybody is going to get along, and that's totally okay.
Hmm.
And I think that's also one of the problems is that some people have an expectation that everybody has to be willing to talk and interact with everybody else,
Right.
and
Has
that's
that been a
not
problem?
always the thing.
Is that a
Oh
problem
yeah,
now?
absolutely. I mean, not for me. I mean, I'll interact with everybody, but
Right.
to an extent, of course. But there are certainly people who are, the introvert types that don't want to speak to other people, and I have seen it firsthand where there are people who don't understand personal boundaries and don't
Mhm.
understand when somebody's trying to get something else done and just persist and interrupt, and it really becomes a problem. And honestly, I don't know how you solve that. That's humanity 101 or maybe 1001.
Do you think there?
Um,
Yeah. Do you think there might be? Have you noticed any introversion in the leadership at all? Maybe like too much introversion, not enough engagement.
yes, absolutely. But and this is where this is going to sound terrible. When this board came on board, I checked out. This board. Now, I'm not going to say that the previous board was fantastic, but at least they were willing to talk and interact with the membership. Whereas this board, except for one person, you just get the blow off every time. Like I've sent emails to the board, and nothing gets answered and things like that.
Well, and I guess
And
in all fairness, though, the board does allow they have office hours, right? So you can go and visit them anytime you want to.
true.
Is that
Um,
been a problem?
that's not something I've used.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a car going by. That it's not something that I've used in the past, mostly because I haven't really had any. I mean, outside of the one member who continues to be a problem that this board is not doing anything about, I really haven't had any issues that needed resolution by a face-to-face meeting with people there. And quite honestly, if they're not willing to work on the issue remotely first via a couple of emails, then why should I even bother talking to them face to face?
So you
It's
feel
not
like
worth my time.
you feel like you're not getting. I mean, if they're not responding via email, why would they talk to you in person? Is that where
That's
how you
kind of where I'm
feel?
going. Yeah. Yep.
Well, but maybe they're busy and not checking their email. Is that, or maybe
Well,
do you
I
think they're
mean,
not just checking your email for any reason, or?
I don't know,
Mhm.
and quite honestly, based on the fact that one person responded relatively quickly. One of the board members responded relatively quickly,
Mhm.
and at least got a dialogue started.
Mhm.
Whereas one of the other ones absolutely read it and responded, but essentially responded with this isn't a thing. I'm not going to deal with this.
So they were dismissive.
And absolutely dismissive.
Okay.
And it was that click thing that's happening, right? There are at least two of the current board members who are very much enthralled with another member whom everybody seems to be complaining about because that member is just an absolute blight on the organization. But he, for all of the bad things, he does get things done. He is very much I will use the absolute wrong tool and I will use a sledgehammer to put this screw into the wall kind of guy. And the current board has basically written off all of his actions as okay because he does get results. But
I guess are you feeling like you're being dismissed because you don't have a good relationship with this person that gets things done, or?
Honestly, I haven't. So outside of one or two instances where this person has just straight up insulted me for really no reason whatsoever, I really don't have any interaction with this person. And I'm a pretty good judge of character, so when it comes to people like this, I just avoid them altogether. However, when you cross that line and I end up making a complaint about you, I expect that complaint to be dealt with, and the current board absolutely just dismissed the whole thing, along with a number of other people's complaints too. And I will give him this. When I talked to the board about the fact that I was about to submit a complaint, one of the board members was very open and said, look, if you're going to submit a complaint, do it the right way. Follow the rules on how it's done, because we get complaints left and right that don't follow the rules, that don't go through the procedure that's set out in the bylaws. And, I for one, am absolutely behind them on that. If you're not going to take the time to do something correctly, to address the board about something, then don't bother doing it. But the other side of that is that when you do have a properly submitted complaint, it should be dealt with. And it should be dealt with in the manner that the rules say it should be dealt with. And time again, this board has absolutely not done that.
Wait, has there been any attempt at all to try to diffuse the tension between people that are not getting along? Is there?
Not as far as I can tell.
So no one's come to you and said, "Hey, you and so and so aren't getting along. Is there anything I can do, or can we talk?" Nothing like that.
Nope. The closest I got was a third-party email saying, hey, look, they just dismissed your complaint against this person. Didn't even get a courtesy email or call or message on talk or whatnot from anybody on the board saying that they were going to be discussing that particular complaint at the meeting, which they didn't follow their own rules about addressing those complaints, and then they just straight up dismissed them, and that was a problem. And that's when I really checked out. When I said, okay, look, I'm done.
So you're saying they're being duplicit or hypocritical about, or
Yep.
uneven about how they apply rules?
100%.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Is that on a regular basis, or is that just with you?
I'm not going to speak for other people on that one, but my guess is I'm not the only one that this is happening to.
Okay.
Mostly because the people that I have talked to about my particular complaints have said the same thing.
Well, I'm just trying to make sure that it's not because of I don't know. Sometimes people will have an interpersonal conflict, and
Sure.
it will. People in a certain position will have a very biased view of things, and it's human to have that
Sure.
bias.
Absolutely.
But it's also important to have some type of check against bias. So
Yep.
nothing like that happened, I guess. There's no
Not as far as I
mature
can tell.
conversations happening, no 101s at all.
Nothing. Right.
Yeah. Okay, well, anything else you want to discuss?
No, not really. I mean, unless you got some other questions for me.
I'm trying to think. Community-wise, okay.
Yep.
What's your view? Like, I guess your perspective on how the community as a whole has responded in the last year. There's been a lot of changes to processes and procedures and uh, uh, things like that. So I guess I want to know your general insight on morale of the membership.
Um, Now, I will say this. So I haven't been around nearly as much as I should have been.
Mm.
Part of that is COVID. Part of that is because I took some big international trips towards the end of last year. And so, I've only dealt with a small group of the people that I dealt with there and outside of Makerspace.
Mm-hmm.
And what I can say is that that particular group that I deal with, there's about at least, let's call it a dozen of us that all feel fairly much the same, pretty much the same, that the current board is just, falling down on the job. They haven't been doing what they said they were going to do. They are delegating things in ways that are duplicitous, and a lot of the things that they accused the prior board of doing, they are doing in spades now as well. So it's I think there's been a lot of us that kind of we stopped coming to the space just because it was easier to go grab a beer with these people outside of the space where we didn't have to worry about somebody coming up and listening in on the conversations where we're talking about the board and things like that, and there's been some fairly mean-spirited comments made to some of the people that I deal with out there regarding their stance on the board, and I'm not hugely vocal about what the board is doing, but some of the people that I deal with there at the space that I consider good friends are, and it has been disheartening to see some of the people in the current leadership, and it's not just the board, right? It's officers and things of that nature as well, and it's just getting ugly. Like, that's what it comes down to. The people who are there just being ugly to other people, and it's taken a lot of the fun out of being there.
Well, other than people, I mean, it's obviously it's COVID season, and people are leaving
Sure.
because the space isn't as valuable if you can't go without getting sick or whatever. But
Of course.
um, do you know anybody prior to that might have left the space because they were just disillusioned?
Left full out, no, because I think what has happened is, instead of us seeing that as a social rally point, it went from being a fun place to go meet up with some friends and things like that to I'm going there to get my work done, do my project, and then I'm leaving because I don't want to deal with the people who are there, and I don't want to spend, as one of the longtime members that has it kind of in the back of my head that I'm always going to leave the place better than when I found it. When I end up going there, if I have to spend an hour cleaning the place up because other members have just left the place a disaster, and then I only have half an hour to do my own work, it's not worth my time going anymore. And until we get that problem solved, where a lot of the new people who were never onboarded correctly and don't have those same expectations of cleaning up after themselves, of making the space usable by other people, until that gets resolved, it's there's a lot of us that are, we're doing projects that we can do at home. We're now doing at home.
I'm in the same boat. I'm an electronics guy myself, so
Right.
and a computer guy. But the electronics lab got plenty of use for me. So I used to have a full blown lab years ago before the
Right.
space was around, But and same goes with I had a small I had tools and in my garage like everybody else, but I completely
Sure.
downsized and live in a condo now. without a
Right.
garage, and because Makerspace was basically it served that purpose for me, and it still does to some extent. But COVID season put me in a situation where I at least had to get my electronics lab set up again. So that's what I'm working on.
Right.
But
Yep. Yep.
unfortunately, the space is becoming less useful to me in that regard, simply because I'm replacing it with Home Depot stuff. So
Right. Exactly.
now I'm still
Oh,
main.
I'm in the same boat. I
Yeah.
I have a nice set of tools at home now that I didn't
Hmm.
8 months ago,
Right.
and so it's certainly, the
But
uh,
Dallas Makerspace is still collecting your monthly dues, right?
it is.
So so they must be doing something right. If they're collecting dues and you're not coming, that's free
You
money to
know,
them.
yes, and
Well, to
I'm
us,
I'm in a
I guess,
position.
because we're both members.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
And I'm in a position right now where I can spare that.
Yeah.
That may change over the next couple of months, but the way I see it is that the membership is going to churn and the leadership is going to churn.
Hmm.
And if everything works out when we come out of this on the other end, we will have lost some of the members that weren't in it to begin with. That weren't longtime members that really had the makerspace mentality there to begin with.
Hmm.
And maybe, just maybe, it'll be a better place on the other end. But yeah, no, there is absolutely that chance that in a couple of months, if I'm not getting anything else out of it, then I'm just going to pull the plug.
Well, what I'm
But that's
hearing
not going
though
to happen
is
until after I vote.
I'm hearing that there's light at the end of the tunnel if
I hope so.
if things change. So
Yeah.
the reason you're paying right now, I guess, is because
Yep.
you hope things will change in the next few months after the election, and it'll be worth your time. And then you know, but why not completely quit, and then just
Did I lose you
come
again?
back, come back with. I mean,
Oh, right.
it's what's that?
No, I think I lost you for a second. But yeah, I absolutely agree that, you know, when it
Well,
all comes back, I'm hoping that it works out.
well, I guess the question I asked though was why not just cancel your membership and then come back when it's all over? Is it because you want to vote, or is it some
That's
other
a big part
reason?
of it.
Okay,
Sure.
okay.
That's a big part of it.
So you're sticking around because you want to vote and make a difference, and
Yep.
hopefully change things to something a little bit more desirable as an
Sure.
organization, right? Maybe get our community back, and
Yep.
that's yeah. I'm hoping that's going to happen too.
Right.
But I think it's been a productive conversation. I appreciate you allowing me to talk to you.
Good.
And
Well, and any other questions you've got, I'm more than happy to answer.
well, let me think for a minute. I wish I had.
And it doesn't have to be right now. Like, we can always
Oh,
revisit
sure.
this later on if you want.
Absolutely. No, we can do multiple calls
Yep.
if you want. I have a list, so it's and going down the list, but we can definitely talk again. But
Okay.
I really appreciate you giving me your time. And with
Yeah,
that,
likewise.
we're both Dallas Makerspace members. Like we said, Mr. Anonymous, it's been
Yep.
good talking to you, and I
Appreciate it.
will talk to you again.
Okay.
All
Thank you,
right,
sir.
take care.
Talk to you soon. See ya.
Bye.